everybody to Hive Prometheus. Thank you for returning viewers, and welcome to anybody who is new to the channel. Today I want to go over a Orc matchup against Bully Boys that I had this previous Friday night. Going to this match, I was fairly confident. I'm fairly well practiced with Crusher Stampede at this point. I've played 25 games with them. I feel like I have a good handle on map types, deployment, unit abilities, synergies. But let's go to the list specifically first, and then we can go over a turn-by-turn analysis of my decision-making and scoring. Looking at my list to start here, I've got my standardized Neurotyrant as my Warlord, singular character, 2x10 Gargoyles, and then 2 Harspexes, 2 Exocrines, 2 Maleceptors, Norn Emissary that I'm just going to declare singular purpose on a side objective and gain primary on, 2 Tyrannifexes, 1 with a Rupture Cannon, 1 with an Acid Spray, a Psychophage, a Biovore, and 2 Rippers to secure secondaries. And the opposing players list had 10 knobs with a mech. They're all going to be in a truck, and then he did something very similar. I think he had 10 more knobs with a war boss and a mech in the truck, a squad of 20 boys with a pain boy and a war boss, 6 mega knobs. They had the teleporter on the war boss and mega armor, 8 ludas that were going to be up in a building, some mech guns with bubble chuckas. So there's 3 units of 1 in there attached to the big mech. And then there's 5 storm boys and 2 weird boys, and then Gretchen just sit on the home objective. Alright, so to start things off here, we're on the Search and Destroy map. We are just doing Chilling Rain for our mission rule. Our primary objective is Take and Hold, so score 1, score 2, score 3 for 5, 10, 15 progressive a turn. We both took tactical missions. We rolled off, and I chose him to be defender, and then I ended up getting the first turn roll-off to go. This is our deployment. I have my Norn Emissary over here ready to loop around and try to get to his preferred objective up here. I have the Haruspex here ready to try to pounce out and get anything that comes here. There is an enemy Orc truck that is actually hidden in the building here. There's a weird knob here. All the ludas are up here. The Gretchen are down below. The big squad of 20 boys is here. The mech guns, the other truck with the boys, and then in Deep Strike are those 2 squads of 5 storm boys and the mega knobs. And then the shock attack gun is at the top here. Upon getting first turn, I was able to move up just a little bit here. I repositioned my Tyrannifex to come down and potentially get shots at anything coming down this lane of fire, but also still keeping line of sight up here. I positioned my Acid Fex so that in the case that he gets past my screen with my Gargoyles here to block his truck, then I would have an opportunity to shoot him with the Acid Spray come to the objective. I also potentially have a countercharge with the Haruspex to come here. I'm just butting up with my Norn and the Maleceptor here. I'm probably going to end up taking some pot shots from the ludas up here because I am on an objective, and when he shoots, he can reroll all hits with ludas for enemy units on objectives. But I'm basically just trying to hedge my bets, screen out, and this is going to be my strong objective. So if I can score 10 for the majority of turns and then throw something onto the middle to get my last 15, that'll get me 45 out of 50 primary. I don't think I'm going to be able to contest this side. So my hope right now is that he moves up. I put a Spore Mine in the building here to stop his advance, so he would have to end the boys right about here. And with the truck movement and disembark for the mech, he was not able to get within 3 inches to blow that up, so I effectively stymied his movement to the objective on the first turn here. All right, we are skipping forward just a little bit here. I believe that this is turn 3. So at this point, some wild stuff has happened. I have moved my Tyrannifex through the middle to go get the knobs that dumped out. I have ended up fighting and killing a bunch of them between shooting and some fights. So I've brought the squad of 10 knobs down to 8 with the war boss. Over here, I was able to screen block with the Gargoyles. He dumped out the knobs, fought the Gargoyles, couldn't consolidate. I charged the Haruspex and the Maleceptor after shooting. Killed something like 6 of them. In melee, I killed the rest of them. He then rolled the Fights on Death. The only mistake that was done here was I was not aware for the stratagem that you had to roll in a WA turn on a 3-up that the model would fight. And then I think the activation and consolidation rules would be normal. So I don't think even with a pylon he would have been able to get all of the attacks that he allocated onto one of these models. He decided to put all 10 of the models attacks on the Haruspex, leaving him on 1. So this was a bit of a rules misplay on my part, and specifically why this matters later will come into view. So I think on average rolls with the Fights on Death and with the specifically not removing the models for allocation afterwards, he would have been he would have had to have split attacks. So two of my monsters would have been wounded, but one of them would not have been almost dead. So that's something to look out for in the future, specifically when I'm just checking rules for enemy stratagems. I did read up on the enemy bully boy stratagems beforehand, but we were just in the moment and weren't focusing too hard. I have moved my Terrafex up here because I thought I might need some extra help getting into the center here and blocking the Mega Knobs that have now deep struck behind the squad of knobs here. I thought that in the case that I needed the highest toughness possible with the most number of wounds, and then if one of them dies, I can just auto-explode them and do some mortals. So this is kind of my retaliation damage here. I have now moved up my Maleceptor. There was a truck and a boy here. So the truck was here, and there was a mech that I killed between shooting from the Tyrafex. Tyrafex threaded one shot through the truck. I rolled 10 damage, blew it up, and then the Exocrine here shot the knobs in the middle to deal a bunch of the damage. I also have cheekily brought in my Haruspex right here so that on the next turn, if these boys do come in and end up hurting my Maleceptor, I have a counter to come get them. That also ended up not going as planned, but we'll get to that. All right, so another turn that I'll be honest was kind of disappointing. This was a little upsetting. So after so I believe this is turn 4 now. We're skipping ahead a little bit again. So at this point, he had thrown both of his weird boys that were here and here. He actually teleported it over here. They both rolled 9 or 10-inch charges, got into my Haruspex. They both failed to kill him. I ended up killing one in melee and then one the next turn to get Assassinate for 5 points, which is fine. He then deep struck his Storm Boys back here on this objective, even though it was stickied at this point. Gee, I wonder why it got sticky, because he controlled his command phase. But how did he do that? Oh, well, when my Haruspex came over here, charged, and made a move onto the objective, I only killed like 5 boys. And then the Pain Boy, with his stupid Urdy Syringe, rolled a 6 to wound with a Strength 2 weapon, and then rolled 6 mortal wounds on my Haruspex to bring him from 10 down to 4, and then the Power Claws remaining did enough damage to kill him. So on average dice, my Haruspex should not have died here. He probably should have been left on 4. And then on the preceding turn in sustained combat, I would have had activation to attack, rerolling all hits, all wounds. So this squad probably should not have had 17 models at the end of the turn. It probably should have had like 7. It then made an advance and charge to get into my Exocrine here, tying him up. I had to fall back on the next turn, but we'll get to that. I now have thrown in my Tyranid into the middle of the fray here. I'm just trying to occupy the Mega Knob's attention. I threw my Gargoyles on here to out-OC the objective to keep him to 10 primary for 1 turn. The Mega Knobs on turn 2, while struck back, brought my Tyranid down to 1, which was very lucky. I had to spend 1 for Savage Roar to make them -1 hit. This was a case where he had a CP that he could have rerolled all hits, but he was saving it for something else. At this point, I'm just warding away the Storm Boys here. I think with slightly better secondary draw, I probably could have had done better on secondary, because I had my Rippers hiding for the majority of the game, deep struck here and here to screen out with my Exocrine, the Neurotyrant, and whatnot. It effectively made it so that I screened the entire backside here, so there was no deep strike opportunities. I did well there. Did force all of his deep strikers to come into his side of the board. So for him, that is lost efficiency, because it would have been better if he just started them on the board. On this turn, I drew Bring It Down. So I was able to move my Maleceptor down this way, and then my Exocrine within view to shoot the mech guns here, blowing up 2 of them, getting 5 points for Bring It Down. So at this point, it's a pretty close game. I think we're tied up at the end of turn 4. The end of turn 5 is what kind of did us in. So I had been kind of wondering what his plan was. He had drawn Capture Enemy Outpost on turn 4 and was deciding to keep it. And it was because I think this was my mistake. I honestly should have just kept my Exocrine in the combat here and just tried to let him die, because then the Orc Boys would not have been able to consolidate on. I fell back, tried to shoot them, didn't kill enough of them. They were then able to freely move and charge onto my home objective, denying me 5 primary, and he scored 8 for Capture Enemy Outpost. That is a 13-point swing. So just remember this number, 13 points that he gained on that turn, or 13 points specifically that was a swing. This objective is eternally sticky, because boys now natively have sticky objectives. I think that is kind of an oversight and a mistake with the amount of bodies that they're able to bring in the first place. I think they need to be able to devote resources to put on objectives and keep those objectives. It's not like they're Space Marines or they're an elite army and they need that opportunity to move up the board. That's one of the things that annoys me a little bit. I was able to bring my Maleceptor down here to the objective just to try to get OC on and occupy these guys again. I do not want them to come over here to my home objective, nor do I want them to come through the wall, kill the Biovore, and then consolidate on, because at that point, even between my shooting from the Exocrine here and the Exocrine here, I will not have enough shooting to clear these boys to take back my home objective for Storm Hostile objective on turn 5. So ending score here ended up being 81 to 94. And you remember that special 13-point number earlier? So if I had specifically gained an additional 5 and been at 86, and he had lost the 8 from not being able to get to my home objective with either of these charges, it would have been a tie game at 86-86. And then given that my Haruspex died on this objective, I would have been able to keep him over here longer. I think I might have had an opportunity of not throwing my Tyranid into the middle here. My Maleceptor could have changed priority targets, and then also my Exocrine would have been available to shoot other things. I think, honestly, I probably could have won this game by maybe 2 points, maybe 88 to 86. This historically just ends up just kind of being the thing when I play orcs, that if I don't end up winning by 2 to 5 points, it ends up being an incredibly close game. Honestly, I think the thing here is that Erdy Syringe rolling a 6 and the 6 is, it's a 1 in 36 chance that he did those wounds. I would have had my Haruspex for an extra turn and would have freed up other resources. So specifically, this objective here was just wild dice, and it cascaded into failure here. But it also was a failure of mine not to keep the Exocrine in combat. So between just the dice gods not being in my favor and one user error, I end up losing this game. So although I did lose this game by 13, all things considered, it is really, really close. I am going to be retuning my list. I actually will show you that list here after these slides, just to go over why I think that will be a more efficient take the next time I play against this player or Bully Boys once again. The list that I'm thinking about changing to a little bit for that next orc matchup, I'm actually thinking about throwing in the Flying Hive Tyrant for the first time. I think his ability to paroxysm and give -1 attacks to an enemy unit within 12, even if he's not in combat, could also help synergize with the -1 hit from the Maleceptors. I'm going, full send, triple Maleceptor, triple Exocrine, 1 Haruspex, 1 Timer Effects with the Acid Spray, because I think the Rupture Cannon only really had one good target, and that was the truck. Trucks are only T8, and so between the Flying Hive Turrets, melee, some of the shooting that I have here, I think it's enough to bring the trucks down if I really needed to, but I think the 190 points invested into killing a 65-point transport is just too much. I had 15 points left over, so I'm giving the Flying Hive Tyrant Ominous Presence to make him OC6. Now that I've taken the Norn Emissary out, I need to have a little bit of an OC presence for primary. If I screen similarly, I don't think I'm going to have one of my strong objectives threatened all that much. So I think the Norn Emissary for now isn't quite needed against the Orc matchup, but I might change my opinion on that. Still got the 2 squads of 10 Gargoyles, but I think I need just one extra little chaff unit, either to extend Synapse to things that want to have leadership, or to screen my back edge. Barbgods, I'm thinking about potentially could be put up into a building so that they're going to get plunging fire and slow down units. I don't think the orcs are going to be charging up into buildings. If I'm 6 inches up, they have to get to the bottom of the building and then get within 5 inches of engagement range, not 6. So it's partially my idea to put them in a tall building in my backboard so that if something tries to run up to my home objective or my strong objective, they won't be able to. Haruspex will be sitting there either as a heroic intervention, tech piece, or to reserve, similarly to how I did that past game. And then the Exorins and the Maleceptors and the Acid Effects are just there to deal the damage and just kill the things that like the knobs and the mega knobs before they get to me. Biovore and the Raveners, I'm throwing the Raveners in because I think having something that can go into reserve, pop out, do secondaries, and potentially threaten the backboard is something I've been missing. I would have personally been able to score capture enemy outpost myself on turn 3 if I had something that could threaten the Grots because they had higher OC. My Gargoyles, instead of going to the middle and out OCing the middle, probably could have gone to the back, weathered an Overwatch of any sort, and then gained capture enemy outpost, and then it would have been a 13-point flip for me as opposed to the other player. So with all that said, I wanted to get a match into orcs early so that I could start learning their playstyle, some counters, and I'm still waiting on some more data for the next 2 or 3 weeks to see how the matchups for tournaments shape up, looking at specific win rates. I'll be doing a video in the future on the new meta for the new season, running up to the data slate in July, probably around the 3rd week of July is when we'll get a new points change and a new data slate for rules and data sheets potentially. I look forward to that because, as some of you saw in a previous video, I wasn't too happy with the changes for Tyranids. I think they were mostly side grades and then a nerf for Gargoyles from the most competitive lists. but there's lots of time. This is a great time to jump in, experiment, have some fun with crazy lists. If you have any comments or concerns or suggestions on how I should have played a little bit better here, or on the list that I'm working on to contend with orcs in the next game, go ahead and leave a comment below. I answer almost all comments. I like interacting with the community. I'm glad that new people are here. If this is your first full video, I want to thank you for your attention and your time. I hope I added something of value and of service to your gameplay experience. So thank you for coming by. I hope you learned something today. And this is Hive Prometheus. See you next time.